Good afternoon, everyone. I, Preeti Kashyap, welcome you all to the second CPD session for the day, hosted by S. Chan Publishing. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's second CPD session, which is focused on elevating students' engagement and critical thinking in English language teaching. I'm elated to introduce our distinguished speaker, Ms. Manisha Dak, an accomplished teacher educator, materials developer, and language assessor with over 2 decades of expertise in ELT. Ms. Manisha Dak's impressive credentials include a range of professional certificates from esteemed institutes in India, the UK, and the US. Through her work with prominent organizations, she has contributed significantly to the education field. Ms. Dak will share insights on how to cultivate students' ability to analyze, reflect, and question effectively, a cornerstone of fostering deep comprehension and critical thinking skills. I encourage each one of you to actively participate in this session. Feel free to share your thoughts and experiences in the interactive segments. Let's make this collaborative learning experience that resonates with our individual teaching contexts. So before I hand over it to Ms. Manisha, I'd like to mention some housekeeping rules to you all. Participants will be muted throughout the entire session. Please ensure you have a pen and a paper to note down important information. The chat box will only be enabled during the Q&A round and as required by the speaker. To receive your e-certificates, please fill out the feedback form that will be sent to your registered email IDs after the session. Remember to participate in the quiz after the third session of the day, which ends at 5:30 p.m. today. We will share the quiz link with you after this session end. So without further delay, let's extend a warm welcome to Ms. Manisha Dak as she navigates you through the transformative realm of guiding students beyond the text. Ms. Manisha, ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much. And hello again to those who attended the previous session, and hello to those who are attending this, those who have joined only in this session. So we talked about writing in the previous webinar. We are talking about reading here in this webinar. So let's get started then. All right. Before we begin, I would be interested in knowing about any new participants who have just joined. Which cities are they from? If you can write in the chat box, please. Any new participants? Okay, we seem to have the same. Okay, oh, somebody is new. Okay, good evening, welcome, Pradeep. Welcome, Shubhalata. Thank you for joining, Ramneet, Jinju. Quite a few. Welcome. Okay, so let's talk about the text. Let's talk about reading. And we're talking about beyond the text. But I think what I would also like to talk about is what we can do with the text, because we can't go beyond the text unless we have dealt with the text first. And before we can answer those questions, let's reiterate or reshare why we should develop reading skills. What are some of the reasons for which we should develop reading skills? Can you type a word or a phrase in the chat box to give a reason for which we should develop reading skills of our learners? Vocabulary, okay. For better understanding, improving vocabulary, better communication. Pronunciation. I'm not sure how reading helps with pronunciation because it's reading, it's not speaking. So pronunciation may not be a part of that. Very good. Critical thinking, effective communication. All right. Okay, fine. I have got a list of 7 reasons on my next slide. And I want you to complete those reasons for me. So I have a reason with a gap in it, and you have to read the statement and then complete the gap. I've given you the first letter of to complete that reason. Okay. So reading is one of the primary forms of dash in modern society. What do you think is the answer here? No, complete the gap, please. Fantastic. Yes, communication. That's the right answer. Communication. So a lot of knowledge today is present in the written form, be it news articles, blog posts, you could have social media updates, everything. And that information helps individuals to keep up to date with recent trends and development. Okay, next reason. Oh, sorry. I think I gave away the answer, but yeah, let's look at that. Proficient reading skills are fundamental to yeah, success. Excuse me. So success across all academic subjects. I mean, it's through proficient reading skills that learners acquire a lot of knowledge. Learners depend on the textbooks, supplemental resources to do their assignments or to prepare for the exams, to develop the conceptual understanding. So if they have proficient reading skills, they will be able to succeed. They will be able to acquire knowledge and thus succeed in academic subjects. And especially at higher level, and most of the knowledge is in the form of books. Third reason. Third reason. Yes, critical thinking. So reading encourages critical thinking. As the learners engage with the text, they analyze the information provided, then they evaluate that information and form opinions based on their evaluation. So yes, it definitely encourages critical thinking. Number 4. Yep, the answer to number 4. No, not learning. I'm looking for something else here. That's right. That's right. Language. Yeah. So it helps develop language proficiency because learners are exposed to different writing styles, a wide range of vocabulary and sentence structures, and all these put together help them enhance their communication skills. Next. Aisha is fast. Okay, Suma. I think I'm just looking for one word here. So some of you have given the phrase, not comprehend. I think the answer is cognitive. Fantastic. So it helps or it fosters cognitive development because it stimulates the mental processes such as memory, concentration, and problem solving. And the last one here. And the last one. They develop empathy and not cognitive. Cognitive is over. Communication is over. Concern. No, not concern. Something else. Not creativity. Look at the number of dashes. I think that stands for the number of letters in the answer. Compassion, too long a word for that. But I would agree. I mean, empathy and compassion would go hand in hand. So I share that guess. Concise understanding. No, not really. Comprehension, too big a word. I'm looking for. I think some of you gave that word as an answer to. Yeah, somebody said culture, the adjective form of that. So empathy and cultural understanding. Because students read texts from different cultural context, texts from different parts of the world, it helps them understand how people in those contexts act or behave and what are their circumstances. When they read poetry or different kinds of stories from different contexts, it helps them develop the empathy and cultural awareness. And that also kind of develops some sort of tolerance towards the differences. All right. Not just that, I think one more reason is also personal growth and enrichment. So people also read for pleasure, not all the time for knowledge. And it also develops you as a human, as an individual. So these are primary reasons for which we should develop our reading skills. Now, given that we have established the reasons, let's see if you agree with this quote that's there on the screen. Do you agree with this? Or do you disagree? So when we talk about phonics-based skills, we're talking about the knowledge of sounds. So the quote is saying that if the learners have, even if they have the best phonics-based skills, that alone will not transform a child into a strong reader if the child has limited knowledge of the language, impoverished vocabulary, and little knowledge of key subjects. All right, I think there's a mix. Some people agree, some people don't agree. I think we tend to agree, we should be agreeing with this statement, and I'll tell you why. So what the quote is trying to say is, if the child is able to recognize the word, like the child, because the child knows the sounds and the child is able to read that word, doesn't necessarily mean the child understands the meaning of that word. So to help our learners become effective readers, we need two things. Of course, the system of symbols, as we looked at in the previous webinar as well, they do need to recognize the sounds associated with the letters in the printed text, but at the same time, they also need to understand what that means. So when the children are reading any text, they not only need to identify the words, but also understand the meaning. They also put to use their background knowledge about that subject. So these are some of the strategies that learners use when reading. So there are three things needed in addition to phonics-based skills, which is knowledge of vocabulary, knowledge of sentence structures, and the knowledge of, and some background knowledge about the topic. And the learners put that to use when reading the text. Now, when we have established the background to this webinar, let's talk about the focus of this webinar. So by the end of this webinar, we aim to answer three questions. One, what can we do with the text? Because we can't go beyond the text unless we have dealt with the text. So what is it? What are different things that we can do with the text? Once we have done that, we will then look at how we can go beyond the text. What are the different activities that we can do? And the last question would be, why should we go beyond the text? I'll be very brief about the first one because there is another webinar, Subskills of Reading, which mainly deals with what can we do with the text, and I can give you the reference at the end of the webinar. All right, so what can we do with the text? In the chat box, if you can tell me, what can we do with the text? When we are giving the text to our learners for the first time, what do we do? And we're talking about reading here. How can we develop their reading skills with the help of the text? So write story, of course, would come as a post-reading task, but not for reading. Discussion, summarize. Very good, Dimple. Comprehend. What we need to do first is we need to help our learners comprehend the text. Because only when they comprehend the text, the idea that is present there, that they would be able to do the task that goes beyond the text. Yes, infer meaning, identify the words, comprehension, create comprehension tasks, all of that. So these are the 5 things that we can do with a particular piece of text. Okay. Now, there is a specific skill, subskill name attached to each way of reading. Can you match the ways of reading, like reading quickly or reading very carefully or reading to deduce meaning or all of that? Can you match the ways of reading with the names of subskills? So for example, predicting. What do you think is predicting? For A, which one would you choose? All right, I think people are going by numbers, so let me also go by digits then. So number 1, reading quickly to find a particular piece of information is not skimming. It says quickly to find a particular piece of information. It's not understanding the overall meaning of the text. Read carefully. Yes, somebody has said C, so 1 is C because it is scanning and not skimming. Because you're reading quickly, not to understand the overall meaning, but just to understand certain pieces of information in the text. So that's scanning. You kind of scan, certain parts of the text. Number 2 is A. Yes, of course, that's right. That's prediction. And does that happen before or after reading? Prediction. When do learners predict? Before or after? Before. They predict before, not after. So they predict what the text might be about before they begin to read. Number 3, reading very carefully in order to understand as much information as possible in the text. That's D, correct. Reading for details. And here, learners need to understand every word, most of the text to be able to do the task. Number 4, reading to deduce or understand meaning. Number 4. No, it's not B. Yeah, some of you have already given the correct answer. It's definitely not B. But it says reading to deduce or understand meaning. So in order to deduce meaning, you can't read quickly to understand the overall idea. You have to pay attention, pay close attention to the words and the structure. That's right. Reading for inference. 4 is E, because you have to read between the lines to be able to deduce meaning. And the last one, number 5, we are left with only one option, which is skimming, reading quickly to understand the overall meaning of the text. So when you have a particular piece of text, make sure that you help learners develop these sub-skills of reading. And there are specific tasks that you design for each sub-skill. I'll just show you the answers to this, and you can click a photo if you like. I'll give you a few seconds. Click a picture if you need, take a screenshot. All right. Now let's look at an example. What can we do with the task? With the text. Okay. I'm going to give you an example of each of these sub-skills, what tasks we can do for each. Let's say I have a text in mind. You don't know about the text, but the text uses these pictures. Okay. Can you look at the pictures and guess what the text might be about? Can you do that? All right. Somebody has written recycling, save environment. Yes. Okay. Mostly water management. Okay. Nature first. Sustainability. Fantastic. Ways to save environment. Fantastic. Yes. So when you allow learners to predict the content of the text, it better prepares them for the upcoming text. They have already framed certain ideas. They've already activated their existing knowledge about recycling. So when they're reading the text, the task becomes a little easier. All right. So this is prediction. Let's look at skimming. Yeah. So skimming is to help learners understand the overall meaning. And for this, learners do not need to understand every single sentence, every single word. Make that very clear to your learners. So in your instructions, definitely say, read quickly and answer the question. So for example, one of the types of, one of the gist tasks that you could do, or the skimming task that you can do, is choose the best title, or a question, what is the text about? And if they are able to, okay, some people are solving the exercise. So the title of the text, if you can read the text, because this is the, so maybe why not spend some time? Why don't you spend some time reading the text? Because we'll be using the same piece of text for a lot of other tasks, even for the tasks beyond the text. Okay, people have said 2. Yes, that's right. The title of this text is Restore the Earth. So when you say, then ask your learners, why not the first one, effects of pollution? Is because the text is not just about pollution. It is clearly talking about how you can recycle or reuse the products. Yeah. Again, number 3 is not the title. Wastage of resources is because it's not only talking about wastage, but it's talking about how you can use the waste products to make something better and to save the environment. So number 2 is the correct answer. All right, that's for skimming. Let's look at the next one. So the next skill is scanning. Now, in this skill, the learners are required to look at only particular parts of the text and not the whole text. They do not need to understand a chunk of the text, but just a part. So look at the question. Yeah? So the learners need to read the statements, and certain words are highlighted, and they need to correct. So read and find out the correct word in place of the highlighted word. So we burn and process trash when we recycle. And the word is not burn, the word is collect. So that's the only piece of information that the learners are expected to find from the text. So this is an example of a scanning task in which learners scan the text to answer the question. Inference, Wherein learners deduce the meaning. The answer is not directly given in the text, but they read between the lines. They take the help of the contextual clues and try to answer that. So in the text, the word is sustainable. Learners read what comes after and before the word and then guess the meaning of that word. So that is an example of an inference task. All right, so this is what we can do with the text. Now, let's talk about how we can go beyond the text. And as I talk about the tasks here in how can we go beyond the text stage of the webinar, please, in the background, at the back of your mind, remember that I'm going to show you another text on the effect of climate change on the wildlife. And you need to give me the beyond the stage, beyond the text task for that text. So as I talk about the text on recycling at the moment and describe the task beyond the text, please at the back of your mind, also think about the task that you can use for this text, which I'll show you later, which is on climate change and the effect of that on the wildlife. Now, when we talk about beyond the text, there are two types of tasks that we can do. Post-test tasks and productive follow-up tasks. Now, to help you understand the difference between the two, I'm going to show you an example of each. Study the example and tell me what's the difference between the post-text task and the productive follow-up. In the chat box, you can just, first you write whether it is post or productive, and then we can talk about the differences. So this is the text based on which I've designed these two tasks. Tell me, which one is a post-text task and which one is a productive follow-up? Example 1, example 2, you can just write the words 1 post, 2 post, or vice versa. No, please also write, yeah, okay, somebody is saying 2, example 2 is a post-text task. Okay, I'm waiting for some more responses. 1 is after. See, post is after. Both the tasks are to be done after the text. So somebody is saying 1 is post, the second is productive. Okay. After, of course, both the tasks are after the text. That's right. That's right. The example 1 is your post-text task. My tongue is twisting. And the second one is an example of the productive follow-up task. Now, can you guess the difference? What's the difference between the two? What's the difference between the post-text task and the productive follow-up task? Any thoughts? All right. So the difference is, in order to do the post-text task, learners still need to depend on the text. The task is linked to the text, to the content written in the text. Okay? So for example, the task here, the sentence has been taken from the text, and then the learners decide based on their understanding of the text to what extent they agree or disagree with the author's opinion. So the author's opinion in the text, and therefore the understanding of the text is required to do that task. And therefore it is a post-text task. In example 2, it is a productive follow-up task because, yes, the learners have developed the basic understanding, but they don't need to depend on the text to do the task. They're now going beyond the text. Yeah, they're now taking their understanding of the text to real life. So that is a productive follow-up task. So that's the basic difference between the two. And it is advisable that you have both kinds of tasks after you have finished with the reading subskill task with the particular piece of text. Any questions about the difference between the two? Is that clear? If it's clear, can you type yes? So the post-text task is still dependent on the text. Productive follow-up goes beyond the text to the real life. All right, thank you. Thanks for confirming. Okay, so let's now look at what different types of tasks beyond the text task we can have for this particular text. It's a non-fiction text, text on restoring the environment or saving the planet. Now, I have designed 3 tasks for this stage. And I want you to guess the task. So I'll show you the pictures. Tell me what the task is. Not the task. What is the name of the activity? So dash and dash. Can you take the clues from the pictures and tell me what is this task that I'm designing? So complete the gaps, please. I'm looking for two words. One word. Okay, GD, gossiping and debate. I don't think we would want our learners to gossip. Yeah, what you mean is discuss. Okay. Very good. So for the first one, it is discussion and debate. All right. Now, based on this text, Restoring the Earth, we can organize discussions and debates in the class. So you can divide your learners into small groups and you can give them different topics like they can talk about environmental impact of recycling or what are the economic benefits of recycling or what are the challenges that they might face. And when you organize these kinds of tasks and when you give them these tasks to discuss and debate, you are helping the learners analyze different perspectives on recycling processes. What do other people think about that? Do they think the same as I do? Are there any differences or similarities between our views? So there's a lot of critical thinking involved in that. It also helps them reflect on the complexities of the issue. So, for example, something that they might have taken for granted, throwing something to the landfill, a plastic bottle or a waste paper. Uh, and when they research about this topic, they realize that it is not that simple. It's not as easy as just throwing a piece of paper to the landfill. It is a complex issue. And therefore, as they read, they reflect on the complexities of the issue. And as they reflect, they question their own assumptions. Because sometimes they might have thought one thing, but the research then kind of uh, undo their own assumptions. So they begin to question their assumptions. So this is one kind of an activity that you can do, especially if it is a non-fiction text. Let's look at another task and let's guess what this is. What am I doing here? What kind of task am I organizing? What do you see in the picture? And what can you guess from there? Observation, okay. Exposure, all right. Observe and reflect. Well, observe and reflect would probably happen afterwards because site visit, okay. I would go to the site visit, but I'm also looking for field trip. Fantastic, Papita. Field trip is the answer. Uh, so once they have finished reading the text, you can organize kind of a field trip to a local recycling facility if it exists. And if it doesn't exist, then you can give them a virtual tour of a recycling plant and let them know about how the recycling happens. And once they have done that, once the field trip is over or the virtual tour is over, they could then discuss different things. So they can discuss what they learned. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. What they learned. They can also talk about different recycling processes and how they work based on their observations and reflections, and how important is their role in recycling. So they start thinking about that in the discussion. Uh, Now, how does this discussion help? Is it provides learners with a first-hand experience, of course, so they can see the recycling processes in front of their eyes, which deepens their understanding about the concept. It also helps them reflect on environmental stewardship. Remember, in the classroom, our job is not just to develop their reading skill, but also to develop them as good citizens. That's the ultimate goal of any education system. So they reflect on environmental stewardship. Sometimes the environmental problems are not related to me alone, it may not concern me, but despite that, there are a lot of people who take the leadership roles and try to resolve the issues that the society is facing. So they reflect on how people do that. And then they question the impact of their own actions. So if people are working towards the cause of restoring the earth, what am I doing? And whatever I'm doing, what is the impact of my actions on, on the planet or on the environment? So that's another task. Let's look at one more example and tell me what is this? What is the task? Experiential learning. Look at the letters. Analysis is already given. Yes. Thank you, Malini. The answer is case study. All right. So what you can do as part of the case study is you can provide them with two contrasting case studies. One in which the community has successfully implemented some of the recycling programs, or another community that has failed in its recycling efforts. The learners study these contrasting case studies, and think about and analyze these real world examples of how recycling works. They reflect on the effectiveness of different approaches, so what works and what doesn't work. And then they question why certain things don't work. And if they don't work, what can we do to prevent them from failing? So there's a lot of critical thinking, reflection, and questioning involved here. So make sure that when you design the task, you're focusing on analysis of the information, and then they reflect, and obviously they question, not to the teacher necessarily, but they can question. Now, these three tasks are the ones that I designed. Remember, I told you that I would give you the text on climate change and its effect on the wildlife. So it's your turn now. Okay. So read the text, spend a minute on reading the text, and then another minute on thinking what kind of post text or productive follow up tasks you can design based on this text. What can you do? Remember, we are not talking about while reading, we're talking about after reading. Take your time. I know it takes time. Think about how they can take it to their personal life. Or is there anything that they can research about? What can we do? Or even post text tasks, something that is still dependent on the text. Thank you, Sonal, for the response. Can you be a little more specific? Awareness, conservation of environment? Yes, of course, but how? What tasks can they do? Take care of the environment, wildlife protection. Okay, the themes are right, of course. Yes, the task could revolve around wildlife protection, preserving. Yes, all right. Let's look at some of the example. Write a poem on environment protection. Okay, so basically that, yes, so that's a task. Those are the examples that I'm looking for. So you can ask learners to write a poem, or planting trees, definitely, to save wildlife, protecting wildlife habitat. But they may not be able to go and protect wildlife habitat. What can they do? Poster making, of course. And on the poster, probably they can suggest strategies that people can use to reduce if the impact of climate change on the wildlife. Stop using plastic. Okay, all right. Now, stop using plastic. Obviously, there's an activity that they can do, but what are the tasks that they can do so that you know what they have done? Now, here are some ideas. You could have the post-text tasks such as summarization. Okay? They could read the text and summarize. So this is the post-text task because it is still dependent on the text. They could prepare discussion questions based on the text. What more things they would like to discuss. They could also talk about, the task would also revolve around comparison of species, like what is the impact of climate change on different species? How do they suffer? Not everybody may suffer in the same way. So probably they could pick one particular animal and then how the climate change affects that animal. There are slogans, merits and demerits, vertical peer teaching. I'm not sure about what you mean, Puna, by vertical peer teaching, but I'm sure that's an interesting idea as well. Advocacy campaigns. So you gave ideas about poster making. This is what they could do. They could actually have maybe plays. They could perform plays, street play. Very good, Sumita. Sorry. So they could do. They could perform a street play. They could design posters. They could write poetry. They could have songs. They could have a rally. So that's also, and they can then think about what aspects they would include in these tasks. They could also prepare a proposal for conservation strategies, what strategies they would like to propose to protect the wildlife. So these are just some ideas in which you can go beyond the text and help learners critically evaluate the information that they have received in the text and then take it beyond and apply it to real life. Fantastic ideas coming in the chat box. Thank you so much. People are talking about collages, making collages. Oh, somebody has said productive follow-up task. Collect some newspaper cuttings regarding climate change and its impact on wildlife. All right. Write a blog. That's very important. Yeah. So that's a good post or productive follow-up task, Chandrani. From reading, you can either do a speaking task or you can do a writing task in the productive stage. They could do role plays, of course. Yeah, they could maybe have the roles of animals, and then they can talk about how the climate change is affecting them. All right, interesting ideas. Thank you, everybody. Now, we looked at a non-fictional text. Let's look at a fictional text, okay? And what kind of tasks we can have based on that. So, Three Little Pigs. I'm sure I actually took this text. I know it is very simple, but I thought everybody, at least most of you, would be familiar with this. So I didn't want to take an unfamiliar piece of text here because it would be very difficult to read the entire text through the webinar. Are you all familiar with the story of Three Little Pigs? For those of you who may not be familiar, it's a story of three little pigs who build their homes. One builds a house from straw, the other builds a house from wood, and the third one builds the house from brick. And then there is this devil, there's this wolf, who comes and attacks the homes. So he huffs and puffs and blows down the house made of straw. And he's able to blow down the house of straw very easily. He does the same thing to the house made of wood, but despite a lot of efforts, he's not able to blow down the house made from brick. So that's the story, okay? And you have already done the reading task that can help learners understand the story and develop the different reading subskills that we looked at earlier. So now look at what different types of post-text or beyond the text tasks we can design. Can you give me some ideas? What can learners do based on this? Yeah, huffs and puffs and blows the house down. Yes, Anna, that's right. Role play. Yes, Sumita, that's a good activity. They could role play maybe different pigs, and there's a wolf, and then that's one idea. Anything else? Storytelling. Okay, they could tell the same story. You mean different? Okay, they can talk about different types of houses. They can research, and they can make a poster. Brilliant. Character analysis. Puppet show. Fantastic. Story with a different ending. Lovely. Collection of words. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Character analysis, summarizing, mime, role play. Mime, I'm not sure, but maybe they are just guessing the story with the help of that. All right, fantastic. Lovely ideas there. Now, I have some ideas here. Thank you, everyone, for sharing those ideas. I have these ideas here. There are these 7 things that you can do as a post-text or productive follow-up stage. Now, I have designed 7 tasks for these 7 types here. You need to tell me which of these 7 would go with the task that I'm going to display now on the screen. Okay? Let's do one as an example. So, look at the task. Was it fair for the wolf to try and blow down pigs' houses? Where does it go? Which of the 7 do you think? Right, that's right, that's right. Number 2, moral dilemma. Yes, because we're talking about good and evil, good and bad. Learners are able to distinguish between what is called a good behavior, what is called a bad behavior. Okay, so there is this conflict between good and bad. Okay, moral dilemma, very good. Look at the next one now and tell me, where would you put that? Okay, so the houses use different materials. Read carefully. We are getting different answers here. 4, 6, 7. Real world, that's again different. Look at this. What do these materials represent? So stone is a stone, but I'm asking learners, what do you think stone represents? All right, too many different answers here. The answer is symbolism and allegory. That's what it is. Because each material that they are using actually represents a quality. So, for example, straw is something maybe for people who are vulnerable, who are weak, or stone can be used for people who are strong. They have strong willpower. They don't break down that easily. So there is symbolism used here, and therefore it's number 7. Let's look at number 3. Tell me. Okay, the answers are coming in. We have got 5, we have got 4, we have got 3. Remember, it's retelling of the story. So the wolf is telling the story from his uh, perspective, and the pigs. And if you say, okay, retell the story from the point of view of the pig who made a house from the stone, what would that be? Exactly, number 5, because you're exploring different points of view here. So wolf would tell the story from that perspective, pigs would tell the story from their perspective. So different points of view. All right, let's look at the next one. This should be easy. I hope to get the same answer from everybody here. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Oh, I saw 6, 5. 5 is already gone. It's taken. Thank you. Number 1. Okay, so somebody has written number 6. No, look at those who have written different answers. 1 is the answer, yes. But those who have written different answers, see what kind of personality was each pig. We're talking about the personality of these characters. Yeah? And we're also talking about how their actions drive the story forward. Okay? So it is character analysis. Okay, let's look at the next one. We have 3 more options left. 5 is already gone. So 5, the option number 5 is not available. 1 is gone. We have only 3, 4, and 6 left. People have written 3 alternative endings. Am I talking about alternative endings here? I'm asking them to read similar stories in their own culture. Yes, it's number 6. Yes, because each culture will have their own stories, right? And some of the stories are similar. So they can then read about some other stories and then share if these stories are different or similar, and what are the values that are that surface up from the story. All right, the last 2, okay, and you must not get this wrong now. Obviously, the last one you wouldn't get wrong, but at least so okay, I'm displaying the next one now. Just a minute. Yeah, here. Tell me. Okay, I'll wait for some more answers. No, number 3 is about alternative endings. Yes, that's number 4. Thank you. That's correct. Okay, so the message that the story is trying to give, the learners, so basically the message is that you should work hard, and you must make sure that whatever you do, you put in your 100% so that it can last or it has better impact. So that's the message that the story is giving. And laziness doesn't work. You have to work hard if you want to achieve something. So learners take this message and then they apply it to the situations in their real life. So then they talk about, okay, what are the challenges that you might have faced or that you might face in the future where the message of the story might be of use. Okay, and then they have a discussion around that. All right, so that's real world application. And the last one, obviously, alternative endings, but let's look at the task. So that's the task. Yes, so here learners explore how the different choices by different characters impact the outcome. And to be able to do that, they need to associate, they need to link the information. They have to establish the link between the ideas expressed. All right, that's 3, of course, because that's the only one we are left with. Okay, so these are the 7 types of tasks that you could do based on the fictional stories. Not all of the tasks would be applicable to each piece of text, but you can pick and choose the tasks that you would like to do with learners. Okay? And all of these tasks engage learners. They take them away from the surface level reading. They They encourage them to go deep, understand the deeper meaning, analyze the information, evaluate it, form opinions, and then share their understanding. All right? Okay, now it's your turn. Sorry, I forgot to tell you what text I would give you. So I'm going to give you, this is a summary of these 7 task types. If you want to take a picture of that, please do that. All right. Now I'm going to show you one example of a non-fictional text. So it's your turn to think of some post-text tasks. It could be post-text or it could be productive follow-up, any of the two, but something that they can do after reading the text. So what I'm going to give you is Alice in Wonderland. I'm sure you are familiar with it. Even if you're not familiar with the entire story, that's fine. It's about the rabbit hole, where Alice falls into, and then the entire supernatural world that she encounters, and a lot of things like that. So that's the story. What post-text task can you have based on this? Okay, so take a couple of minutes and tell me the task that you can have. Okay, what would you do if you were Alice? That's one task somebody has said. So it's the task type is exploring different points of view, right, or different perspectives. Recreate Cinderella's story. Okay, Cinderella is different. This is Alice in Wonderland. Skit. Okay, they could do that. They could perform. They could write dialogues and perform that in front of the class. What else? Analysis. After reading the story, identify the main characters and the perspectives of the events that unfold. Consider how their beliefs and desires and actions shape it. Right. Good. That's character analysis. Of course, that works really well. And that is a post-text task because doing that task still depends on the text, isn't it? So keep asking yourself a question. Is it a post-text or is it a productive follow-up? Okay, storytelling to write their own experiences. Keep reading, yeah? Keep reading what others are writing so that you get some more ideas. All right, fantastic. Lovely ideas here as well. Okay, I posted on the Wonderland, fine. Okay, here are some ideas that I would like to share that you could do with your learners. So, yep, so you could have a character collage wherein different characters, and they could probably write the keywords and the phrases that are prominent, that are prominently discussed in the story or immersed in the story. You could also prepare a word search, Wonderland word search. So you could have a vocabulary exercise and that would be a post-text task. Tea party role play, you could take a scene and then ask your learners to perform. To be able to perform, they actually need to identify not just the dialogues that the characters are saying, but also the setting, where they are, what needs to happen before the dialogues are taking place. Character charades, they could mime and let others guess. And to be able to do that, they need to understand certain characteristics of those characters so that you can mime. Wonderland map, they could create a map so they can read the information, link different pieces of information, and then create a map based on that. And character journal. So what would this character write about the experience? So maybe a journal entry, they can do it. So these are the different types of tasks that you can do based on the non-fictional moral takeaway. Yes, Kalpana, not Kalpana, sorry, Portia. That's another task that you. What's the message of the story? All right. So the aim of this webinar was only to give you some idea about what you can do what you can do with the text, and what you can do with the text. So I hope you've got some idea. Let's answer the third question of the webinar, which is why should we go beyond the text? Can you please tell me in the chat box, why do you think it is important for us to go beyond the text? Yes, that's right, Shweta. Any other reason, one or two? Absolutely. Brilliant. All right, thank you. Lots of ideas coming in there. 5 basic reasons. As somebody said, yes, it develops critical thinking. I mean, the pictures are the clues, but I won't ask you to guess. I think I would make your task a little easier. Um, so these are the 5 reasons why we should encourage our learners to go beyond the text. It definitely have critical thinking, as we have already discussed. It exposes them to deep understanding, so not just a surface level understanding, not taking the text at face value, but going deep and understanding the concepts. It also exposes them to diverse perspectives and engages them in innovation and creativity, like when you talk about the skit or the poster making. It allows, it gives a voice to the creativity. And also real life application, that's very important, because the learners would feel more motivated if they see the value of what they're doing in the classroom, uh, and how they can apply it to their real life. All right. So I think by now we have answered these 3 questions: what we can do with the text, how we can go beyond the text, and why we should go beyond the text. That's all from my side. A quick summary was a quiz actually, but you can take a photo and answer the questions for yourself uh, to check your understanding. And I can take some questions now. You can take a photo of this quiz.
That was a very thought-provoking session. A very sincere thank you, Ms. Manisha Dak, for an enlightening and thought-provoking session. Your expertise and passion for innovative pedagogy have truly inspired us all. So now we'll take up your questions, audience, and please post your questions in the chat box so that Ms. Manisha will take up all your questions.
Okay. Sorry, it's going very fast. So if you can pick some questions, that would be great.
Yes, I'll do that for you. So there are so many thank you from everybody.
Thank you, everybody. There were questions, but I think they kind of just disappeared in the pile of messages.
Ma'am, there's a question. How do you encourage students to analyze the deeper meaning or implication of a text beyond its surface level?
Okay. I think we have already spoken about the kinds of tasks that you can design. So surface level understanding would be, reading for details, or reading for getting the overall idea of the text, or reading for finding the specific piece of information. So those are surface level understanding. The moment you start designing the inference level tasks, wherein the answers are not given in the text and they actually have to read between the lines to be able to deduce meaning, I think that would encourage learners to go deeper and move away from the surface level understanding and explore things more. So that's one thing that you can do. You can also design a lot of beyond the text tasks. I think we have looked at enough examples. So let's say recycling. We looked at an example and how they can research about different things and develop a deeper understanding of that concept. So I think it's with the help of the tasks that go beyond the text, the answer should not be directly given in the text. Those kinds of tasks would help learners develop a deeper understanding. Right. I hope that answers.
Right. And there's another question: how to sustain the interest among students to read for pleasure by going beyond the text?
All right. I think other participants can also share some ideas if you have some ideas how you can sustain the interest.
Yes.
Reading for pleasure. Well, I'm thinking aloud right now. So in my classroom, what generally happens is when learners, sorry, say the question again, please. Can you repeat the question?
Ma'am, basically they wanted to know like how to sustain the interest among the students to read for pleasure by going beyond the text.
All right. I think read for pleasure probably when they read for pleasure, they would actually be reading the text and they won't be tasked, right? So I don't know if we can actually go beyond the text when they're reading for pleasure, because it's just pleasure. They don't really have any other aim in terms of gaining the knowledge or acquiring understanding. I think that is not the aim. But how you can encourage learners to read for pleasure is you could probably have circle talks, in the library if you have given them books. You can have a circle talk in which whatever book they have read, they could talk about the book, they could talk about what they liked about the book, what they didn't like about the book, why is certain book their favorite book, things like that. But if it's only pleasure, then I think asking them to deeply analyze the information, I don't think that comes into the picture. I think personally that's what I think. But if audience has a different view, they could share in the chat box. I think reading for pleasure is reading for pleasure. I wouldn't want to kind of strain my brain. How I use reading for pleasure for my students as a motivating factor is I identify the students who are interested in reading. And in the class, when certain students finish the task earlier, I keep certain comics ready. I keep certain short stories ready. Okay, if you finish the task earlier, you get to read your favorite book or you get to read your favorite story. Or, you get to do your, like matching. There's a story and there are pictures, match the story, match the pictures in the order in which the story is there. So I think these are the different kinds of activities that I can actually do. But I don't think I would encourage learners to kind of deeply analyze. You definitely, I mean, you can have discussions around the cultural influence, around how the characters are in the book, and are you able to relate to those characters? Those kinds of discussion can definitely take place. That's all I've got to say
There are
about
so
that.
many other ideas all the participants are putting in. So
yes, thank you.
I hope this will answer to your question. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this wonderful session. We believe our journey towards cultivating critical thinking skills is an ongoing process. Let's remain proactive in seeking further resources and participating in future CPD sessions to continuously refine and teaching approaches. A special thank you to all the participants for your active engagement and insightful contribution throughout this session. Your dedication to professional growth is instrumental in elevating the educational experience of our students. We look forward to continuing this enriching dialogue in our upcoming CPD initiatives. Once again, thank you, Ms. Manisha Dag, for your expertise and inspiration, and to all the attendees for your enthusiasm and commitment.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you to S. Chan for the opportunity, and thank you participants for lovely engagement and lovely participation, sharing loads of ideas. I think this is a platform where we share our learning and our expertise. So I don't think any one person is an expert here. I think we're all kind of learning from each other, just the way your learners learn from each other. So thank you all, and happy CPD. Please do attend the next session, which is an assessment. I'm going to attend that. So hope to see you.
Participants, please stay tuned for further opportunities to broaden your knowledge and enhance your teaching methodologies in our upcoming final session of the day at 4:30. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for connecting. Thank you, ma'am.